This episode is brought to you by Honda. When you test drive the all-electric Prologue SUV, there's a lot that can impress you about it. There's the generous passenger space, the clean, thoughtful design, and the intuitive technology. But out of everything, what you'll really love most is that it's a Honda. Visit honda.com/EV to see offers.
Ryan Reynolds here for, I guess, my 100th Mint commercial. No, don't. I mean, honestly, when I started this, I thought I only have to do like 4 of these. I mean, it's unlimited premium wireless for $15 a month. How are there still people paying 2 or 3 times that much? I'm sorry, I shouldn't be victim blaming here. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/save. Whenever you're ready.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See details.
Okay, I have to tell you, I was just looking on eBay where I go for all kinds of things I love, and there it was.
That hologram trading card. One of the rarest, the last one I needed for my set. Shiny like the...
designer handbag of my dreams. One of a kind. eBay had it, and now everyone's asking, ooh, where'd you get your...
windshield wipers. eBay has all the parts that fit my car. No more annoying... just beautiful...
Whatever you love, find it on eBay. eBay. Things people love.
Hello and welcome to the Paddock and the Pavilion, probably the only podcast that covers both horse racing and cricket. Today we're focusing on horse racing and a fantastic initiative called Racing to School with their chief executive, John Blake. Racing to School is an education charity dedicated to inspiring young minds. They offer free, interactive and healthy outdoor educational events for schools, all hosted at various racing venues. Stay tuned to find out all about Racing to School and how they're making a difference. Hello, John. Thanks for joining me on the Paddock and the Pavilion.
Well, Stephen, it's a great pleasure. Great to catch up.
How are you today? You're about to tell us all about Racing to School.
Yes, well, it's coming to the end of the year, and I've spent a lot of time over the last few days telling people how we're going to have another record year for the charity, which is great, but hopefully not too backslapping in those comments. Just very proud of the team, and just so pleased that we've been able to work with so many young people this year, which will be 17,000, which we're really delighted about.
Well, to hear it's continuing to grow is always a good sign, isn't it?
Well, that's right. I mean, back in 2001 was the first sort of cohort of young people that sort of set foot on a race course instead of going into a maths or a biology lesson. And there was 1,000 young people that year. And to get us to where we are now of 17,000, just above that, in fact, by year end is a remarkable achievement for so many people. Over those, intervening 23 years.
Well, in this episode, we're going to find out all about Racing to School, what it is, what it does, what the benefits it brings to children. We've also got 2 guests, Danielle Lawler, a deputy head teacher in Liverpool, and Leonna Mayor, one of your ambassadors who's well known to racing fans on ITV Racing and Sky Sports Racing. But to begin with, John, I wanted to find a little bit about you, the chief executive of Racing to School. Have you got a racing background?
Well, from a work perspective, yes, but actually, no, really. I've got very few credentials in that regard. It started for me, I think, having some time off school with a miserable cold or something, and watching Newmarket racing on a probably then very small television. The Craven meeting, and just thinking, well, this is quite interesting, and sending, and this gives you some indication of how many years ago it was, sending my then, well, still is my older brother, but my older brother, who still was not old enough to have a bet, to our local betting shop, which was at the end of the road, to put on a few quid on a horse called Leofan, who, for the older listeners will remember, Leofan was a very smart flat horse back in the day, and probably the Craven meeting perhaps, and I'm fairly certain, well, I did win because I was hooked ever since, really. So I just developed a very, great interest in the sport from a young age, really. I didn't have any background in it. A great uncle of mine used to own one of the old, very thick time form books that he used to thumb furiously of a Saturday afternoon when my mother used to drag me to go and visit him. Never really understood what he was doing or what he was watching. But I guess a bit of that sort of rubbed off years later. And I was just very lucky that when I became a sort of working age, I was able to get myself involved with, general sports broadcasting actually to start with, but then quickly specialized into horse racing. I was involved in a group called Turf Call, before the days, if people can remember, where betting shops actually carried televised racing. There was a time when you just listened to it, often very, very long after the race had actually ended. And I was a glorified top and tailer, I would call it. So we would talk about the odds, the form, and let the professionals do the actual live commentary, and then we would try to make some sense of it when they were past the post. So I did that for a number of years, and developed some great fun doing that, and worked for an organisation called Race Call, which was a slightly bigger version of that, and then started writing about racing. And I had several magazine columns over time, principally overseas, actually, which I very much enjoyed. I wasn't very good with deadlines, so I only used to do them once a month, which was great. But that in itself gave way to being the racing editor at Channel 4 Teletext, taking them into the digital age back in around about 2000 to 2003. And then I suppose my first foray into a more recognizable racing job, perhaps, more mainstream, was when I was privileged to be chief executive of the then Jockeys Association of Great Britain, known to people now as the PJA, the Professional Jockeys Association. And, you've got a real crow's nest view of the world of horse racing, a very frontline view of it as well. But again, an absolute privilege to do that job. Very interesting. It was during the time of a lot of change in the sport, but some happy times, some challenges with a lot of the corruption cases were coming to the fore at that time with regard to betting exchanges and the opportunity, obviously, for popularization of being able to win money by laying horses, and regulation was just sort of catching up with that. And unfortunately, some of the members fell a bit foul of that. But so that was quite a challenging time in many ways. But there were some great days in that role as well, and a privilege to represent so many talented men and women who were competing then. So I guess I've been grounded in the sport and stepped outside the sport for a while to go into the charity world, which I very much enjoyed. I was very keen to sort of meet life at a different point and learned about charities and fundraising and all the disciplines around that. And when the opportunity came, 8 years ago now, to come back in to racing, via Racing to School, I was extremely interested, and to bring together, two of my great passions, the sport and the charitable world. So I've been extremely lucky. I've got a wonderful team that I work alongside, and a wonderful board that keep us all in line, to be able to develop the charity over this last 8 years or so.
It's certainly a thorough and very varied racing career you've had, John. What attracted you then to the job as chief executive of Racing to School?
Well, I just felt I knew of the work. It used to be called Behest. Again, we're going down memory lane a little bit here. British Horse Racing and Education Standards Trust, which is not the easiest name to sort of mention, but for various reasons, we quickly changed it in 2016 to Racing to School, which is how it was known for its main educational program. And I guess that was sort of part of it, really. I could see the potential. I was lucky enough to inherit the role from a very dedicated and talented group of people, some who are still working with us now. But I could see the potential for it above what it was doing, both from a participation level, both from a fundraising level, from a communications level. I saw so much headroom and so much of its activities. It was pretty much a sort of a secret in lots of ways. If you knew it, you knew it. But so many people in the sport I would speak to had no idea. They just always see children now and again with silks on, or, they may have heard of Behest but not really understanding that it was a charity, not really understanding it was what it was trying to do or its potential. So that was just an exciting challenge, really. And a number of my colleagues are former jockeys, so it was great to get back into that association. I was able, hopefully, to bring some of my new skills around fundraising to the party as well. And with a comms background, those things always go hand in hand. Any charity worth its salt is going to be able to tell people why it's important, what the case for support is, what the enemy is really, in many ways. How, why is there a need for these interventions, and why can people benefit from them? I think blending all that together in this role has been a real joy, really, and a great privilege for me.
Looks like you've got your dream job here with charity.
In many ways,
yeah. In
many ways, Stephen, and a trustee of mine on the board often says that, and I wouldn't argue with him at all there. No, I've been very fortunate.
Now, my first question to you, you may have covered quite a bit of this already. A lot of us know racing to school when we go to the races and we see young children dressed in the silks, but what is Racing to School?
Well, Racing to School is the charity name, but it's synonymous with the main schools program. And it's a schools program, which, as I said earlier, has grown sort of exponentially in recent years. The idea behind it is to transplant groups of children, generally starting at 9 years old. So primary years, years 5 and years 6 are primary, and then into the early years of secondary school, and is to take their learning out of the classroom and to stick it in a sort of fast-moving classroom, otherwise known as a race course. Sometimes we may work at a stud, a trainer's yard. We've done some work at rehoming centres in the past, but generally it's a race course, because what we want to do is build up their knowledge of a racing day, so they get there very early. They often beat the horse boxes to the race course. And the idea is that they are learning through a workbook, and that workbook has been designed in collaboration with a number of teachers over time and evolved and adapted as the curriculum is adapted. So they take some of the challenges of the maths lesson, or the insight of history or social history or science, geography. I mean, there's a number of subjects that the program really touches upon in the day, but we take them through that in the context of horse racing. So they are tasked with various activities throughout the day. They'll be positioned in the weighing room. They'll do some work measuring the perimeter of the parade ring. They will do mental arithmetic when they're working out weights within the weighing room. They'll have a little sneak look in the changing room, providing no jockeys in there getting changed. All of it is about learning how a race day is brought together, the importance of accuracy and distances and guesstimation, and all the things that racing hands its hat on in terms of what makes the day work. They're under no illusion of the importance of horse welfare. That's a thread that goes throughout the day. So we get to see horses coming off the boxes, being microchipped, or microchip being checked. So they're understanding straight away that how important that is. They're walking on rubber matting so they can see how horses are looked after, plastic rails, and all the good innovations in the sport are very much there for them to touch, feel, and be part of. And it is a sensory day, as well as some very clear academic exercises we take them through. It's about them getting out in the fresh air, smelling horses, smelling cut grass, being in an outdoor environment, doing some exercise. They run races on the race course, half a furlong generally. They never realised how hard it is to run on grass that hasn't been cut like a cricket pitch, but they soon learn that. But they handicap themselves, and they learn about how the handicap system works. Fastest at the back, those that think they're the slowest, children at the front. Children don't lie; they're very honest when it comes to that. So the whole day is about fun, hopefully fresh air. The average day would be about 3 kilometers in terms of what they walk. So hopefully we play a little bit of a part in the exercise, and good disciplines around that. There's no mobile phones, there's no laptops or iPads or anything like that they are allowed to sneakily look at. You know, they're really focused on what they're doing. And the idea is really to get them to work as groups and really enjoy themselves, and enjoy the experience with their teachers, see their teachers in a different light as well. And then to give them that wider experience. Cultural capital is a phrase I use quite a bit now. And the idea behind that is that how young people get to learn about society in which they live, and how adults operate, and meeting life at a different point. And those things are, sometimes I have to step back and reflect on that these young people often traveling to a race course, some of them, that might be the furthest they've ever traveled. I mean, it sounds hard to believe sometimes, but teachers will tell us that. They may be speaking to our colleagues as the only other adults, apart from parents or teachers, they get to speak to. They see people dressed up nicely at racing often, people eating in fancy restaurants. They get a sense of society in a slightly different way, but it all adds to experience and sort of a compass point, if you like, in terms of, where they are in their lives and how a different world sort of operates, but not a world that's unwelcoming to them. Quite the opposite. They are treated like superstars. Everyone is so warm and generous with their time. The race courses must be hugely thanked for opening their doors to us, because at 9:30 in the morning, there's very few people around, but our school group starts working then, and that they're allowed access, as I said, to places like the wing, the changing room, lots of places that a paying racegoer wouldn't be allowed to go to. We're often situated in a nice box with a view over the final furlong to give them that insight as well. So it is very much a collaborative effort, but the idea is to get them really immersed with how the day comes together. As you said, they're often in disguise, dressed up in owner's silks, and we obviously give a bit of the history around that and the social fabric of the sport as well. So in so many ways, we hope the program is able to advance their thinking, their confidence, as well as some really good practical application of their school studies.
All sounds very good, John. Let's hear from a deputy head teacher here, Danielle Lawler from Mag Hall in Liverpool, home of the Grand National at Aintree. And let's hear what she had to say about a typical day of racing to school.
Well, depending on the intervention that is happening, it's quite aspirational to see the young people being able to interact with people from a variety of backgrounds. So they get to experience, obviously, the ridge course. But, for example, tomorrow we've got the marketing director and an ex-jockey, Carrie Ford, coming into school to run a marketing event with year 10s. That will be very creative. The children will get up and present as part of a team. But what's key to that activity in year 10 is they're able to build on what they've done in the previous year group, really, because it's a well-planned programme.
But you also go to the race course as well at Aintree.
Yeah, in year 7, they all get to go to the race course and they get to try on the silks. They get to use like a model version of a race horse. They get to look at what the groundskeeper's doing by keeping the ground fresh, the amount of work that goes into that. They get to go to the changing room so they can feel, obviously, what that pressure's like, maybe for the jockeys. They get weighed. They do some type of mathematics around how weight impacts on speed and how that all embeds as part of racing. So the young people get to kind of live maths in real life, how it goes beyond the classroom, and at the same time, obviously, enjoy a visit to the race course where they get talks from ex-jockeys, the groundskeeper, all those key players that bring the whole event together. I think for us, the main thing is students think racing is just about being a jockey. But really, it's much bigger than that. The jockey is only a very small part of what brings the industry together, and that's what our young people learn.
You'd think, but coming from Liverpool, that all the kids would have been racing, but this is an opportunity to get them to the racecourse.
Well, absolutely. I mean, you look at the fight. I mean, Aintree have developed beyond since we've worked with them in partnership and brought things like community events where children go free, for example. But the reality is it's an expensive day out. Not anybody can be a jockey. Not anybody can go horse riding. Not everybody can even remotely dream of owning a horse. So if we weren't bringing this to the young people as a trip, how would they ever experience going to the race course if they were from a deprived background? It's never going to happen. It's not an accessible sport, but Racing to School have made it an accessible opportunity.
Oh, that's very good to hear. And what's the buzz when you're there at the racecourse or when someone comes to the school?
Well, for example, tomorrow we've made it a reward now because we can, because everyone gets to experience it in year 7, and it's an equal visit, and they all go and they all enjoy it. And then in year 8 they have a literacy day where they get to rewrite the headlines. So they'll show a clip of a day at the races and all the fun, and people dressed up and having a happy time. And then our young people have to use their creativity to work together. So they write the headline. So they watch a clip and then they have a bit like what happened next. And they get really excited about it. But the key thing at the end of those workshops is they actually all get to stand up and present to employers from either the racecourse or Racing to School, who they see as quite important visitors that come to the school, and they really go outside their comfort zone and have an opportunity to be heard and feel like business people for the day.
So the reaction has been positive from the children?
Well, today, because we've now introduced in year 10, it is a reward. So there's 210 students in a year group, and we've been able to introduce a reward threshold this year that if you haven't got 95% attendance and you've got more than 40 negative behaviour points, then you're not going to take part in the marketing day tomorrow. And the number of children that I've had coming to me today saying, "Oh, please, miss, I've had so many positives. I'm going to miss out on the entry day tomorrow, and I really enjoyed it in year 8." And we've kind of said, well, meet the threshold and you get to take part in things like that. And we're not afraid to do that because we're confident that they all got to experience it in year 7, 8 and 9 in some capacity. So we've made the year 10 one a bit of a reward and something to aim for. Now, if you want to participate, then you've got to be the best version of yourself. And they're all talking about whether they're taking part tomorrow or whether they haven't made the grades, basically.
Sounds like it's making a real difference.
Absolutely, and it's something to aim for, something different than your normal school day. And tick so many boxes for not just cultural development and an awareness of the local environment, but also an opportunity to meet employers as well, which is vital in raising aspirations and working together as a team and presenting. That's a life skill, isn't it? And it's one of the few opportunities where everyone gets to work with people you've never worked with before. A bit of a competitive spirit, because at the end of it, the winner team gets to go to the races with their family. So they're not only fighting to present just because they want to beat their friends, but they also know that they're fighting to get tickets for their family at the same time.
So overall, how important do you think Racing to School has been to the children and the school you're at?
Absolutely important, because the key thing with them is they don't just come in and do an ad hoc event to tick a box. They actually work with the young people from year 6. So from our feeders right the way through to year 7, where they visit the race course. And then they can put some context to that, because when you do the literacy event in year 8, it's not just an ad hoc activity. We can actually talk about, when I went to the race course, which was a gap. He came in and done a workshop, but no one knew what he meant when he was saying, this is the race course and this is what a race day feels like, because they've not experienced it, but now they have.
That must be heartening to hear Danielle speak so well of Racing to School.
Well, Danielle's great. She really is. She's an absolute mainstay of Maricourt High School, as you say, in McGull, not too far from Aintree. I've had the privilege of going to the school myself, and it's a full-on school, and I mean that in the nicest possible way. There's some really engaged young people there. And she's really got the enthusiasm, and you can really feel it when you're at the school. And yeah, I mean, it is wonderful to hear their experience. The school Maricourt is part of the Aintree Beacon. And let me quickly explain that. That is, as Danielle said in your piece with her, that there are 3 feeder schools. So the primary schools that generally feed the high school, which she works, are part of the program as well. The younger children in primary age are fortunate enough to have pony handling sessions, so they actually get hands-on with ponies, courtesy of the Aintree Equestrian Centre. So there's solid links with the younger children when they're at that formative age. And then as they go through into the high school, as Danielle said, the activities there, the racecourse activities, the marketing activities, the great support we get from the Jockey Club's team at Aintree in terms of members of staff going in and talking about their roles, trying to make them relatable, these young people, because they're not jockey roles. They might be catering, they might be marketing, they might be ground staff, all, different types of roles, but all totally vital to the working cogs of horse racing. And so, those young people can then begin to think, well, okay, maybe that sport might be something which I might be wanting to pursue if I've never sort of galloped on a horse before, because obviously it's, as Danielle said, a lot of the schools we work with are deprived in a city or rurally isolated, so they may not have the same sort of opportunities that other schools do. But one thing she did talk about was the accessibility of it, and I think that was really heartening to hear, as you said, that she believes that does open the door that otherwise would not be open. And the ethos of Racing to School is that we do not charge for these days. We're very fortunate that we get voluntary donations from schools, and an increasing number of those donations, I'm pleased to say, which is great, because that means we can then invest that money in other young people and other schools. But we do make it free to user. And that is really, really important, because we want to enfranchise as many schools as young people as is practically possible. We do have the logistical challenge that if you are 100 miles away from any sort of racing facility, then it's obviously a bit harder to engage, although there are innovative ways to do that. But in terms of our schools program at racecourses, we want them relatively close, so they're not spending too long in a school bus. And how much better for the Aintree-based pupils to be connected to, such a wonderful course, the most famous jumps course arguably in the country, certainly the People's Race in terms of the Grand National, and they really feel part of that. They really feel part of that in terms of going to the race course and learning about it and having pride in it. And I think that's the key, is that they have some pride in something which is on their doorstep.
It's so important to get the buy-in of the teachers and the school. And do other schools mention it to others so that you then get approaches for days?
Well, absolutely. I mean, we spoke about that Danielle being part of the Aintree Beacon, those 4 schools. We have another, what we call a Beacon project in Newmarket, which, whereas the Aintree Beacon will be 10 years old this academic year, and we look forward to celebrating that. Not far behind is the Newmarket Beacon, which is the Newmarket Academy. Now, Newmarket, obviously, as I'm sure your listeners will know, synonymous with racing, mainly flat racing, of course, but nonetheless regarded as a headquarters, only has 1 high school. And through the generous support of Godolphin, we've been running a Beacon program there for that school, which is about 30 days of activity. And that was born out of the template of Aintree. And yes, we very often have emails coming in saying, I was a teacher at one school, I've now moved to a new maths department across the country. Could I bring my new school to work with you? And that's so heartening. I mean, that's, you don't have to market the program really when you have that sort of testimonial as such. So yeah, we very much appreciate that, and bringing in new schools as well. And that is so important. And also when she was talking about the sort of the presentation aspects of it, you could sort of take racing out of that momentarily and think, well, how great is that for those young people to have the confidence, the focus, and hopefully then the transferable skills to feel confident to talk in front of adults, to feel confident about doing a piece of work and standing up in front of their classmates. That skill and hopeful confidence can be translated into any walk of life, any college interview they may do, or any job interview they may do when they're a little bit older. And if racing, and that's come about because of racing being part of their academic life, then that's something we should be incredibly proud of. And Carrie Ford, who, again, hopefully listeners will realise was 5th in the Grand National, a horse called Forest Gunner. She's so shy about saying that, by the way, but I'm allowed to say that. And the kids warm totally to her when she tells them that, because there's someone who is a superstar in their eyes and has done superstar things around the Grand National course. And, you're going to listen to Carrie Ford when she speaks at the class. And Carrie's really developed and made a great success out of the Aintree Beacon. That's one of our, alongside Newmarket and many other of our programs, is very much our crown jewels. And we're very proud of the progress both those programs have made.
Hey, aren't you that PBM?
Middleman. At your service, doctor.
Don't you get rebates that save money on medicines?
Oh, PBMs like me get big rebates.
So why do patients tell me they're worried about their costs?
No one says we have to share the savings with patients.
Congress should make sure medicine savings go directly to patients, not middlemen. Visit phrma.org/middlemen to learn more. Paid for by pharma.
This year, Santa's bringing the power of Energizer into his workshop.
Whoa, the Energizer Bunny's got so much power.
Wait, he's powered up all the toys. I think that means we're done for the year.
I love this bunny.
He's the hardest working helper the North Pole has ever seen. And he wants all your gifts to have the power of the #1 longest lasting AA battery. So this holiday season, stock up on Santa's and the elves' favorite battery, Energizer Ultimate Lithium.
Blinds.com Cyber Monday Last Chance is happening now. Don't miss out on up to 45% off site-wide. A Blinds.com design expert can help you make the perfect selection on your schedule. We can handle everything from measure to your whole home installed for one low cost. With over 25 million windows covered, Blinds.com is the #1 online retailer of custom window coverings. Save up to 45% site-wide, plus a free professional measure right now at Blinds.com. Rules and restrictions may apply.
Your staff must be very important, though, in all of this, that they've got racing connections, they've worked in the industry.
Yeah, absolutely. Fundamental. We couldn't do the job without them. And I think what pleases me most and makes me so proud is their adaptability. There are lots of people I know who know a lot about horse racing. There's a lot less of those people who could talk in front of 30 children and hold their attention, keep them interested, be tolerant, be patient, take everyone with them. Those skills take work. And so many of the team were former jockeys or related in some way to the horse racing industry who have that horse knowledge, have the racing knowledge, know their way around a race course, which is vital when it comes to our days. But they also understand the importance of keeping the program relatable to young people. Racing is mired in jargon, isn't it, in terms of anachronisms and acronyms and all the myths and symbols and all the rest of it that has been born of this historic sport, which is to its credit, because it's fun to unravel those, isn't it? It's fun to learn facts, but you've got to hold young people's attention, and that's not always easy, and you need to be able to not get bogged down in jargon, and the team have always balanced that really well, in my view. They can answer any racing question that's ever thrown at them, but they can also relate it back to what the school studies. They can relate it back to bite-sized information that young people need to hold on to improve their learning. So when we take them toward the end of the day, before they see one or two races, which is always the crescendo of the day, we take them through the race card. And when I attend the days, I always sit back very quietly, and I'm amazed their knowledge of how they can work it out. Anything from what's the jockey's percentage going to be of the prize money? What does it mean when there's FR in brackets after a horse's name? What's bay? What does that mean? If there's a 1 or a 0 before the horse's name, what's that mean in terms of form? And the answers are flowing through, and you think they really were listening as the day unfolded. What does 9 stone? What does the numbers 9-12 mean in terms of weights or whatever it might be, and it is really interesting that they're enthusiastic to do that and find their own way, find their own path to learning about the sport. And I think that's a real credit to the team. So yes, we're very lucky that we have a great team nationwide. We work with every race course, so our team is dotted around the country. Spend a lot of time behind the wheel, and if you're on a motorway and you see the racing to school van or the racing to school trailer, you'll see our you'll see our logo there. But it's great that, as I said, the racecourse is supported in that way and allow us to be a national presence, because this is very much a national sport, and we want to play our part in sharing the joy of it.
I think it's wonderful that you're really spreading the gospel of racing all around the country to a young audience, the future of the sport.
Well, that's right. And I think one of our sub-programs is called the Riders Program, still under the Racing to School banner. And that program is a slightly less volume than the main schools program, but that's aimed at young people that have already sort of put their hand up about racing. So they may be, or horses, I should say, really. They may be pony club members. They may have enrolled in an equine college. So they've already got some equestrian interest. Remarkably, their knowledge and interest around horse racing tends to be typically quite low. And that's where we come in, because that's an opportunity for us then to fire up their interest in the equine, but actually point them, perhaps away from horses and other disciplines, but toward racehorses and the opportunities for engagement and maybe work, and pony racing as well. We work with the Pony Racing Authority and partners on the Pony Racing Pathway, which is very popular with pony clubs and other young groups of young people who engage with that. So, we're really trying to give them a bit of insight into the width of careers in the sport. And so that plays a really big part in our work. A lot of the summer is taken up visiting pony camps when the schools are on holiday. So we're pretty much nationwide, but also year round in terms of our approach. And again, the background of our staff team is really important there, that they're able to adapt in that way. They're constantly training, so we are able to take or give instruction rather in terms of the pony club members, and that's really important that we're able to do that in a safe way, in a safeguarded way, because we are responsible for a lot of young people. And it's really important that we do that in a responsible way, both for the children themselves, but also for the reputation of racing that does care about its interactions with people, whatever age they are.
I think it's time, John, for our second guest, Leonna Mayor, who you very kindly introduced me to, ITV and Sky Sports presenter. And I began by asking her about the benefits of racing to school. And this is what she had to say.
The key benefits are, there's so many. I got into racing when I was 14, I'm 34 now, through pure chance. My dad was a dairy farmer. We didn't really have, we didn't have money or anything as such, but there was a racehorse trainer down the road. And I think this story, my story, is everyone else's story that I know. They just fell upon it. They knew someone that knew someone, That is not enough, is it? There's got to be some kind of real draw. You've got to be telling people. If a kid tells you that they want to be a rock star in school and you tell them it's not possible and there's no way of you getting into that, it's probably not going to happen. And that's the same with if I'd have said at school I want to be a jockey, they'd have probably laughed in my face. Whereas now, of course, I go to the races as a TV presenter. I've got there on my own. I've done it all myself. I've had a few careers in racing now. When those children are going to the races and they see me, they see jockeys, they see trainers, they see the lasses leading off these beautiful horses, they genuinely are excited and are happy to be there. And that's only because of Racing to School. They're a self-funded small charity that are really trying to do their best, because we need children to come into racing. We need more people, even if they don't end up working in racing, and it just encourages them to go to the races to enjoy the sport. So, the key benefit is they're putting us out there. They're putting the name out there and they're showing people, A, how many jobs there are, B, how fun it is, and your passion. Even if you just like horses as an 8-year-old girl, or you've been and had a riding lesson, imagine what a massive boost this would be into thinking that it's possible. It's viable for you to go and work with horses and, with these gorgeous athletes. I think Racing to School's awesome. I wish they had more support. We're all doing our best as ambassadors. They've got a few now that really try and put them out there. But as we know, with everything, it's funding, isn't it? They can only do as much as they've got the money to do. So I think they do a great job. And I think we are trying to do a lot to get them out there even more. But they are everywhere. They've got so many projects now in different areas and different schools. So the key benefit is that knowledge, isn't it? That they're there.
it's probably even more important now in the current environment that racing exists in.
Yeah. And again, I mean, that's a tricky one because unfortunately, it's not the children who think that we're cruel to animals or that we don't care about horses. It's that older generation that don't want to be changed. You know, they just think that's how it is. And you'd say that because you work with them. You know, I love animals. The only thing I ever cry at is animal videos and people being cruel to them because I'm not fussed about people, but animals really do mean so much to me. And I've worked in the industry since I was 14. And I personally, I'm not saying there haven't been things that have been done the wrong way in racing. I have never, ever seen any instances of any animal cruelty. I've never seen anyone be, you know, even out of order to an animal. I mean, we're going the other way now that we are obviously, you know, that you're not allowed to do anything at all. Well, if you didn't chastise/train, whatever the word you want to use, a dog, how would they behave? And they're not 600 kilos. So, you know, there's that small window where I think, you know, we're going too far the other way where it's like, oh, well, they're wild animals. Well, they're not, you know, and they're not bred for that. They're bred to do a job and they have a lovely life. And I think it's good for children to see that. And even if they can then go home and tell their parents and then the parents take them to a yard, the parents come racing with them. We're still getting there, aren't we? We're still showing people that it really is better than they think.
Yeah, it's very important to get the message out, isn't it? Finally, how proud are you to be an ambassador of Racing to School?
Oh, I've kind of covered that already, haven't I? I'm very proud. I really like them. I mean, John is probably a great. He brags about me and vice versa. You know, I do the best I can for them. I mean, I've got 3 jobs, so I'm quite busy, but I do as much as I can manage. I'm really proud to be an ambassador for them. Like when you go to the races and you see an equisizer there, you know, the pretend horses that the jockeys train on, and jockeys now, you know, that are in your William Buicks, you know, they're training on them all the time to just keep that fitness up, make sure they're not getting tired, make sure their legs are strong. When you see children at the races on them, honestly, it's amazing. They have such fun. They're laughing their head off. They're saying how hard it is and how tired they are. That's amazing, you know, and they then see what it takes and how hard it is. And again, none of that would be there if it wasn't for us, for Racing to School. So I'm very proud. I think that, you know, as I say, they're doing an amazing job and hopefully we can keep going in the right direction and keep getting bigger. I mean, their reach already over the last few years has massively grown year on year. So they just got to keep doing that, which I'm sure we will.
It was a pleasure to speak to Leonna. You've got the perfect ambassador there for Racing to School.
Well, she's infectious, isn't she? She's great, effervescent. I just thought a long time ago she'd be so relatable. She, honest as the day is long, says it how it is, always enthusiastic, always positive, approachable at the races. You know, she just, you know, I've always envisaged her in front of one of our groups and just our team can sit back and let her get on with it. You know, she's just got that natural, as a few people do, but she's the archetypal ambassador. She really is. And she's very generous with her time. And she's helped us out a lot. And, you know, I think she understands it because, as she said, she didn't have like me, really, didn't have a racing background at all. Just for her, she fell into it. And for other people, it's different touch points. But we've got to create lots more of those touch points. And I think, you know, she really embodies that. And no, she's always good fun. And the ambassador program has been a great help for us. To be able to spread the news about what we're doing and the innovations that we're doing. She spoke about the equisizer, the race simulator, and they've really taken off. We've got 4 of those now, and that's great fun. And racecourses often ask us, you know, in the school holidays, and we asked only the other day if we can take an equisizer to Kempton over their Boxing Day meeting over Christmas, and we're able to offer that to a wider group of race goers. They're very popular. We have VR headsets now, so we're lucky enough to have some software that plays out races where one of our other ambassadors, Holly Doyle, actually wins a race at Newbury, and the young people can be Holly Doyle on the back of a horse. And we want to innovate a lot more along those sort of lines as well. So there's plenty more we can do in the ambassador team, which is relatively new. It's only been a few years. We've really put that together. And we've got some wonderful people. All of them are great, and they all help us in different ways. And I think it is so important that we can relate the work to people who have busy lives across racing, doing different jobs, and are able to see, the importance of engaging with young people. We were all young once, and it's really important that we give them the best possible chance to make the best informed decision about racing, really.
And unlike the two of us, John, the ambassadors you've got are young. You've also got Oisin Murphy, John Joe O'Neill Jr., Rachel Blackmore.
Yes. I mean, I didn't want to really go through the names because I'll inevitably miss one out, and it sounds rude. We love them all, but yeah, we're very lucky. We're very lucky. They all, it was pushing it an open door with all of them. I mean, I'm a big believer if you have ambassadors, they've got to do something for you. They're not just dusty names on a piece of paper. I couldn't. Leona's the complete opposite of that. She does a huge amount, and the others are also incredibly helpful in the way they engage, and just are enthusiastic about the work. And I think that's getting the word out. I think Leona said, and she's absolutely right. And yes, we're lucky enough to have some big names across the sport who are good role models in lots of ways in terms of their success on the race course and the dedication and hard graft it takes to be successful in their careers, whether in the saddle, in the media. We've had trainers before now, a whole raft of different people, broadcasters, people that have worked extremely hard for a sport they're very passionate about. And what they want to do is to share that passion with young people, to at least make them inquisitive. I mean, at least make them think, this is interesting, this is different, to coexist alongside maybe a football interest or a cricket interest or a rugby interest or whatever, or whatever they might, music or whatever else is fills their emotional space, if you like. There's room for racing because it is so different, so exciting, and can offer so much. And I think the ambassadors play a big role in just manifesting that.
We can easily forget what a big industry the racing industry is in the UK.
I think that's right. And, there are 85,000, what you would call ancillary jobs, I suppose. So jobs all in, if you like. You can, of course you can be a jockey. Of course you can be hands-on with horses. You can never get on the back of a horse and still work with horses. But then you can widen that out. You can be the top of your catering profession and work in horse racing. You can be the best lawyer there ever was and be involved in horse racing. You can run a charity. You can be a broadcaster. You can run a race course. You can be a head grounds person. I mean, it goes on and on and on if you have an interest, and that interest will intersect with racing. But I think the first thing is to get people feeling as if this is a sport that they want to be in, and and putting role models in front of them and relatable people, like Leona, like the people at Aintree that go into the school to talk about their career choices and the paths they took. Is so important, because this is when young people are sponges. They're taking that information in. And back to what I said earlier about just the noise, the smell, the touch of a racing day, that will be indelible for a young person. I'm sure we can remember when we smell cut grass, it takes us back to a childhood memory. It takes us somewhere, or the noise of a seagull or whatever it might be. It takes us somewhere the first time that came about. It reminds us of something generally pleasant and happy. We want racing to play a part in that. And if we can make that exciting and they can have some physical exercise at the same time, I think we are hopefully playing a good role in their lives and well-being, but at the same time, hopefully setting them on a path of a lifelong relationship, however that looks, but a lifelong relationship with horse racing. That would be wonderful.
And as you've said earlier, improving their education and their love of education.
I think that's it, because we all learn in different ways. There are some people that are just booky, if you like, and literally have to focus in that way. Other people can learn in different ways. We have whiteboards that we now use. The team can use to help with people who need to, learn in a slightly different way. There's people who verbalize a lot more. No one's the same. 10% of our work is with special education needs and disabilities, young people. And that's really important for us. And that's more intensive in numbers. but absolutely vital that we're able to engage with those young people as well, because they're getting a huge amount from the day. And the workbooks that we construct, they're not just for the day. We send them back to school, especially the primary schools, because we've basically created a new lesson for them. Because a lot of the activities, whether it's design a jockey's silks or construct a meal, a nutritious meal with the right balance of calories for a jockey, or a word search, or various things. A Q&A with Rachel Blackmore, in fact, features in the latest version of it. So you learn a bit about her life. So there's loads of stuff that can go back and help with literacy. And what we often get is letters from the school thanking us for the day. And again, that's a great exercise for the teacher. So express how you felt about the day. In the past, we've done writing competitions and poetry, to give them that sense of how do they express, what they thought about it. And generally, it's very positive and excited. And, I didn't realize that horses could run so fast. I didn't realize, jockeys were so small. I didn't really, and on it goes. It's all very funny and interesting as only young people can write, because, as I said earlier, they're very honest with what they do. But we do ask them a sort of before and after question, really, about, has your opinion improved about racing? And, we're pleased to say that's the adults as well, by the way. And we're pleased to say that's always very, very positive, in the high 90s percentage. And teachers generally 100% want to come back for another day. So, that evaluation is very important to us. Because if you can't measure it, you can't improve it. And so that is really important. But as you say, the education aspects are critical there. And they start with a different way of looking at learning, a bit of confidence, perhaps, something they can take back into the classroom. So facts and figures, feeling a bit proud of themselves for getting an activity right. These are the things we want to instill in a happy day that hopefully will be first of many days they'll spend in the company of racing in some way or another.
What's the future then for Racing to School? I know you're hoping to get more and more children involved. Obviously, funding's always an issue, I suppose.
Well, that's right. And, I was really pleased to hear Leonna bang the drum for that. But it's not just a case of that. Of course, funding is vitally important. And you'll expect me to thank our main funder, the Levy Board, that contributes around half of our funds. But we work very hard to diversify our fundraising at present. And we have lots of great partners, as well as the donations from schools and race courses, which we're delighted to have. So that has allowed us to fuel our expansion. And next year we will reach our 250,000 young person. So we will meet the 250,000 mark, which we're delighted about and we'll hopefully celebrate. So we certainly want to continue expansion. We're planning out 2025 already, of course, and that will hopefully be another record year. But we want to do it with quality in mind. And what I mean by that is you won't see a Racing to School day with 500 children at a racecourse. Not least that the racecourse probably wouldn't let us in. But the reason we won't do that is because they will not get that intimate relationship. They will not get with the sport. They will not get the attention of our team and the opportunity to really learn. They'll just be it'll be too global in that sense. So we want to keep the numbers manageable so the quality and the experience of young people retains its level. So we have to be innovative about how we go about doing this. The fixture list obviously dictates when we can be watching live racing. So that will always be something we have to bear in mind. But we do more non-race day activity now. We're very much an all-weather charity. So if last Friday, I think it was a catch, if they'd failed the inspection, we still would have gone ahead and done the day. As it transpired, they did pass it. But, we do lots of days when racing has been abandoned. But we also go on non-race days as well, where the fixture list just hasn't allowed us to work in term time with that particular race course. So that's important that we offer that. Leonna mentioned the exercises, so we can bring those into play on non-race days, and the VR headsets and one or two other things as well. Going into schools, we've mentioned a little bit about what we've done there, and that's important. So we can do more work there. And I think partnerships is the key as well. And that's how we grow the numbers in that way. I'm pleased to say lots of trainers now invite us in to do days there. We worked with a number of studs. If I can name drop a little, we've had 2 visits in the summer of 2024 to the Royal Studs, I should say, in Sandringham, which is a bit of a coup because not many people get to go on trips there, organised trips there. So they invited us on successive days this year, which we were delighted about, and gave a wonderful opportunity for a school local to them. So it really is about, thinking how we can maintain the quality, but also innovate in a way that enfranchises even more young people. And we do that, as I said, through collaboration, through partnership, and finding, ways to get racing across to people in a way which they find very engaging. But yeah, we're delighted to have, beaten our records in recent years and be looking forward to that milestone next year, and very ambitious about doing more.
Well, thank you very much, John, for being on the Paddock and the Pavilion. I can see you've got your dream job. Long may it continue, and the best of luck to Racing to School for 2025.
That's very kind, Stephen. Thank you so much.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.